India.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
We have been speaking for so long. Good to see you here in India now.
In the flesh.
Absolutely, absolutely. And extremely happy to host Matt today in this conversation. Matt has been a great mentor to me in the transformation journey over the last 18 months. We have pulled in Matt in several conversations with us to help us and guide us. And here is he to have a conversation with us today. Thanks, Matt, again.
You're being too kind, and I'm thrilled to be here, thrilled to be in this market. Thanks, Somick, for having me.
Matt, I was looking forward to this conversation because you have been, roaming the world, talking to different clients. You have been, giving insight to different clients. What are you hearing from our clients globally as pandemic is behind us and organizations get ready to become a fit for future organization?
Well, Somick, I think it's been, there are three broad categories of things that we hear from clients across industries. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. And I think that's also evolved a little bit since the over the last several months. So initially, I think one of the big themes that we heard from many companies was that they had learned a lot through the pandemic around how they make decisions as a leadership team, how they actually transform. Things that took organization perhaps years before, they learned to do in literally weeks or days during the pandemic because of how decision cycles work, because of how they had to, and they were forced to actually work together. So I think in that sense, it's been a great accelerator. And I hear from clients across industries, companies are actually very excited about growth. They're all talking about growth and innovation and how do they actually innovate for the next level of growth. Now that's on the one side. But right along with that, every single organization, whether public sector or private sector, we keep hearing concerns around the economy and the word that nobody wants to hear, recession, right? And you hear it across the board. Organizations are already taking actions around their costs, particularly their people costs, but also other costs across the board in order to be able to recover margins and be able to manage performance on some kind of stable basis. So it's this very interesting conundrum. On the one hand, a real focus on growth, but on the other hand, a great concern around performance, the ability to deliver margins, the ability to manage costs. And then I think the third thing that comes right along with that is the recognition that all of this means that companies have to actually really transform. They cannot just use the word transformation, and hang that on any regular project, but they actually have to really transform in the sense of how they use technology creatively across their business. How do they use it imaginatively? Meaning it's not just automation for the sake of automation, but how do I actually disrupt my business model and get to those new business models we've been talking about, but really get there, faster, as one example. And certainly the other, I think many global companies, and I'm interested to hear from you what's happening in India, are very concerned also around the supply chain and how they build resiliency into their businesses from an operational perspective, and that is very much on the agenda as well. So all those three things, driving growth, needing to manage costs and margins, and then yet at the same time having to transform, having to invest in the future. And by the way, let me not forget, having to invest in ESG, massive topic. Certainly the E part of ESG, having to make proactive changes right now so that we can secure the planet and our future, but also on the S&G side, there are big changes that we see happening across organizations. So I think all in all, it's a big time for transformation.
Very excited to hear that because some of the points that you mentioned actually resonates with our clients, what we are seeing and talking to many of our clients across sectors in India. You spoke about resilience. Every company is talking about what if there is another black swan event like this? How do I make my operations resilient? How do I stay relevant? Second, cost. How do I become more efficient? Do more with less? That's becoming a big conversation. ESG, yes, that's becoming a boardroom conversation. And probably it is off the whiteboard and people trying to get that into action. And of course, another area where it resonates is very much around that transformation is not a one-time job. How are people looking at ensuring that as you embark on a transformation journey, It's not about doing something one time by putting a technology, but human-led tech solutions. How to embed that as a part of the culture of the organization and ensure that you start looking at the benefits that you start getting out of it in both short-term and long-term, both strategically and tactically in nature. So it's a combination of both short-term and long-term, because in India, every company that you speak today are hungry for growth. And that's the first trigger for a conversation on transformation that we are seeing across all our 6 pillars.
And is that growth balanced with efficiency and sort of self-fueled growth? Is that the conversation?
It's a mix of both. One is that the market is growing, opening up for cross sectors for each businesses, and that is where they are seeing that there's a huge opportunity. And the conversations around transformation is help me be ready to face that growth. Help me be ready with people. Get my people upskilled. Help me be ready with resilient supply chain so that I can fulfill the demand of the customer. Help me be ready with operational efficiency, in terms of able to help drive the business in much more agile manner than trying to be reactive every time, which will lose the pace for the growth. So I would say these 3 are kind of becoming the nucleus of any conversation.
Fantastic. In fact, in what you said also around how transformation cannot be just a one-time event, I think right along with that, what we see across organizations and across geographies is that organizations are recognizing that and actually building transformation as a capability. And either the conversation they're having with us is, don't just deliver a project or a program, help us build the capability internally to transform and sustain it, or help us actually build a transformation office that's long-lived,
Absolutely.
Not just short time, but that's long-lived and that can be the energy source for the series of transformations that are required, because it's not just in one area. It's in the operations, it's technology, it's sustainability, it's commercial functions, you name it, right? It's needed across the board. And so I think more and more organizations are really coming to this recognition that there's a need to build the capability. And I think that makes it also a great time to be in the consulting business to really help clients through this kind of journey.
So you give me a cue for the next question. PwC as a truly professional services firm, what are we doing to make ourselves much more relevant in some of these conversations globally? Because every client is different. Culturally, every client is different across different geography. How can we really build assets which can be taken to clients, and how do we make ourselves more relevant?
Well, look, I think the first thing is if we are trying to help clients with transformation, we have to transform ourselves. Okay, that's number one. And I can tell you that from my own experience across the PwC network, there's a huge energy around how we transform ourselves, how we disrupt our own business, and frankly, how we shape our own future.
Absolutely.
And not have it be shaped by what some competitor does or what's happening in the market, but how do we actually shape our own future? Yep. And that is why, personally, I'm very excited about the new equation. It's not just some slogan, it really is around shaping our future and us saying, look, what is it that we stand for as an institution? And then behind that, how do we transform our own capabilities to make that real? And so therefore, we see, obviously, we as a network are making big investments in upskilling ourselves and all our people on not just on technology, but also on ESG, on developing new capabilities and integrating technology and digital in everything that we do, in all of our solutions, products, and services. Next thing with that, we'll be integrating ESG in everything that we do and making that a fundamental part of how we deliver. So I think, the thing for us as PwC to do is also to take on how we work, how we approach problems with clients. Let's not go to clients with the same old 12-week project that we always did, the standard 12-week baseline benchmark assessment. But we need to be thinking in disruptive and much more imaginative ways in how we do our work. And by the way, I think when we do that, that really resonates with clients, especially, I think in markets like India, when you come to the table with an imaginative and a disruptive idea and say, look, how about we try it this way? Now, not all clients will necessarily grab that. Some, like to be risk averse and want to do things in a very slow and steady fashion, which is fine. But I think many others, because of the challenge that you mentioned, that companies are looking to grow, they're looking to accelerate, they're looking to be agile, they need disruptive thinkers who are going to bring, new ideas and imaginative ways of working. So for me, I think, as PwC, that's the number one thing that we've got to do. And then look, of course, then along with that comes all of the ideas that we can bring to the table about how we solve clients' problems in new ways, whether that's through managed services, for example, which clients increasingly need. In fact, one of the things in the book that Paul and I wrote after 3.5 years of research is that all institutions to really succeed today have to work in ecosystems. That means you cannot do everything yourself.
Absolutely.
You're going to have to actually work together with others and integrate managed services. So, we've got to do that in bringing managed services to our clients. And as we build those managed services, we have to do it with our ecosystem partners, our alliance partners, and others, and really be the integrator that solves problems in the best way possible for a client.
I absolutely agree with you, Matt. And I'm personally very excited about the new equation, because that was what brings the power of the firm together, as community of solvers, because the way you are defining some of the problems that the clients are looking at, you really cannot go and, solve it as a technology professional or a management consulting professional or a, tax professional, but probably you need to bring the good of all of these, the sectoral knowledge, the process knowledge, the technology knowledge, to make it happen. And that's what the clients are looking at. And that's where I feel there's a huge opportunity for us under the new equation to really bring the firm together in, delivering a sustained outcome for clients. So Matt, I won't leave you without this. I had to ask you about the book. Personally, I read it a couple of times, and I presented this to many of my clients who found it very timely written. And the 7 imperatives that you've spoken about, that kind of touched them, and many of them said that, extremely relevant for them, what they have been seeing and going through. What made you write this book at that point in time?
Thanks, Somick. So look, what drove the writing of and the research, frankly, behind the book was because we were hearing from so many executives around the amount of money that they were pouring into so-called digital transformation. But despite the money that they were investing, they weren't really fundamentally moving their businesses forward in some big way. And as we all know, the vast majority of these programs, 70%, according to all of the data, transformation programs fail. They don't deliver on the original business case. And so we wanted to really study, well, what does it actually take to so-called digitally transform, and how do you then succeed? And in that journey, we discovered, frankly, so-called digital transformation has very little to do with digital and much more to do with fundamental business transformation. And if you can answer that question of how do we solve problems for our customers, how do we do it in a unique and differentiated way, then you can find your path to success, whether that's digitally enabled or enabled in some other manner.
Thank you. Thanks, Matt. Pleasure hosting you, and speaking to you today. Friends, that was Matt Money, our global transformation leader for all of you.